to answer your question, what I would do is not blame the reader. The reader is there to help you do a good audition. And if you blame the reader, you're just wasting your time. The better question to ask is really, what could I do to show you, the casting director and the producer, how I'm going to play this part? That's all there is to it.
Welcome to Casting Actors Cast, insights for actors on acting in the business of show. Casting director Jeffrey Dreisbach takes you behind the scenes and reveals secrets to a successful acting career. You can find out more on the web at castingactorscast.com. Please enjoy, like, and share Casting Actors Cast. Now, here's your host, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Casting Actors Cast. I know I say welcome back, but if you're the first time tuning into Casting Actors Cast, welcome aboard. I'm really glad that you're there, and I'm glad to be here. You know, I'm glad to be anywhere. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach, your podcast host, talking to you about all things show business. Everything from what it is to be an actor, to what it is to audition, to the business of show. And like I said, it's really great having you here today. This is that moment of the podcast where I do shout-outs to those folks who are listening and tuning in from all over the world. It's an amazing thing, these podcasts, that they really have an outreach beyond my wildest dreams. And I'm hearing from people from all over the world. Just got some feedback from Brazil and Great Britain and New Zealand. My goodness, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that these are helpful to you. The whole purpose of doing these podcasts is to give back some information, some practical, hands-on stuff that you can use to make you feel better as a performer, to make you feel more connected to the community of professional actors that are out there. If you're new to acting, if you're a student, this couldn't be a better place for you, I think, anyway, because I'm giving back information that wasn't given to me, also information that I learned in my 20 years of acting. I'm now a casting director with McCorkle Casting in New York. So please, I encourage you to check out the website, mccorklecasting.com, McCorkle casting, casting.com, and check that out. Also, please do yourself and me a huge favor and go to castingactorscast, all one word, .com. And there you can check out some freebie PDFs, downloadable PDFs that you can find pretty useful, I think. And as I continue to do podcasts, I continue to upload new PDFs all the time. Also, I have a whole catalog of all the past episodes. This is episode number 33 that we're calling Reading the Reader. I'll explain exactly what that means. And we're going to perhaps give you some ideas and some thoughts that you might not have thought of that you can incorporate into your own world of acting that will just simply make you better and hopefully make you feel like part of this fantastic community known as professional actors. So now let's just jump in, shall we? What I mean by reading the reader is there are those times when you go into an audition, whether it be a theater, film, or television audition, and a reader is provided to read the scenes with you in those auditions. It's usually somebody in film and television sitting slightly behind the camera to the left or the right. In a theater audition, they're sitting pretty much near or close to the producer, director, casting director in a room, an audition space. So the readers are hired. Sometimes they're volunteers, sometimes they're paid performers. But the variety of readers that you might get as an actor can vary. And so I thought it would be great to really give you some thoughts and some suggestions about how to deal with the reader. So that's the definition of what I mean by a reader, and that is somebody who is there to play the other parts so that you can show how you're going to play the part that you've been asked to audition for. So that's the reader. So dealing with the reader, because readers can come in all shapes and sizes, and I literally mean that there can be readers who are professional actors that have been hired and paid to do the reading job. Sometimes the readers are volunteers, somebody that the casting director knows and will bring in just to read. And that can have varying degrees of effectiveness toward your audition. I'm going to talk to you about exactly the variables that exist when dealing with a reader. There are even some situations that I've heard of that the casting director sometimes will act as the reader. Now, that in and of itself isn't terrible, I guess, but I am always mystified by how a casting director can evaluate the talent and also be focused and deliver a good read to the talent that's auditioning. I've always found that to be kind of an odd thing, although some casting directors apparently feel that that's a really great way to get some energy and maybe connectedness to the audition is by working with the actor. I've always found that to be very, very difficult to do, and we do not do that at McCorkle Casting, but there are some that do, and so that's why I'm bringing it up here. The first thing that you want to establish with a reader when you walk into the room after saying hello to the casting director and to the director and or producer is you want to make good, firm, pleasant eye contact with that reader. You want to, in a very short order, read that reader, and what I mean by that is size up the reader. Now, it's not unusual for the reader to be a different sex than the character that you're reading with. For example, if you're having a two-hander scene with two men and the reader happens to be a woman, don't let that throw you. That simply means that you have to make your own adjustments to the reader that's out there. And by that I mean that you just decide that this is not going to throw you, that this is just simply going to be the reality of that particular situation. Make eye contact with that reader during your audition. Use the reader to the best of your ability as if that reader is another actor and you are together in the moment and in the scene together. I've seen many times where actors choose to not even use the reader, and the reader is just sitting right there, and they choose not to use the reader for whatever reason. I think the psychology might be that they don't want to necessarily take away from their own audition. I don't believe that that's the case. It's equally important for us as casting directors to see you working with another actor in the process, especially if it's a challenging scene or a scene that is of a climactic or important dramatic nature. It is incumbent upon the actor to use that reader to the best of their ability. Also, this is an important aspect, I think. Sometimes the reader is just not very good. And I mean no disrespect to anybody that's been a reader in auditions, but I can tell you that reader jobs are sometimes not paid, sometimes they're paid. Our readers for theater are paid, and the theater absorbs that cost, and although it's not a lot of money, by the way, $11 an hour right now. If you are a reader and you're being paid, then there's some certain, I don't want to say rules, but there are some certain criteria, that's the word, criteria that need to be made. But if you're an actor and you walk in and the reader isn't that very good, what you need to do is simply decide that when that reader is speaking, you are projecting as much of the creative intention that the character is in with that scene. I guess what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way is that those actors that aren't very good really are an additional challenge for the actor, but you need to play to that reader as if you're hearing it the way you need to hear it in order to accomplish your objective in the scene. I don't know how else to say it. Just as a monologue requires you to project another person in the room, and that you can really decide how that other person is reacting, which continues to prompt and give you cues about how to do the monologue, you need to do that same kind of process by projecting those responses that you expect to hear in your character. That's why part of the preparation for any audition means that you really understand and you create a character that's going to be great for you to work off of, and then use that in the room. Now, many times you'll have a really great reader, a professional actor, somebody who is coming in and they're not in competition for anybody else in that room. They are there to simply help you. And those are the best readers of all. And that's why it really becomes important for you to make that determination. In other words, you read the reader as quickly as you can to see if they're going to be helpful to you or they're not. I know that that's an additional burden on you, but it becomes useful if you decide early on that this reader is not going to be helpful. Then make sure you do your job and show me how you're going to play this part regardless of what you're being served in the room. Here's another thing, that if you have a really good reader, that becomes exciting. That means that you can, and I'm doing air quotes here, which you clearly can't see, but I'm doing these air quotes, that you can really play with that other reader. The best auditions are the ones, and I've said this many times, are the ones where you can feel that something new, interesting, and creative is happening in the audition. And if you've got a really good reader who can help serve that up, then there's no greater feeling than that. So now I want to reverse the thought process about you as an actor going into a reader that you might not have met or don't know, and you really don't have an idea about how that's going to work. I've always been a huge fan of learning by doing. Part of what I call reading the reader in today's podcast has to do with learning by doing. And when I first started acting, I just jumped at every chance to be a reader in the room. It was an amazing experience that I would never, ever, ever regret. And so I'm suggesting to you that if you haven't thought about it, consider being a reader for any production, whether it be a film, television, or a theater production. It might be a local community theater production. It doesn't matter. But volunteer. Make yourself available to being a reader. And here's what I absolutely will promise you. You will learn exactly what to do and what not to do in an audition. It's like having a master's class in audition process. So I recommend it really, really highly. And we love our readers. We take our time. We actually, in reality, we cast our readers. We take a lot of time to make sure we're bringing in the right reader for the particular project. For example, we won't bring in a reader who might be right for a role in the production. But we need to also make sure we bring in a reader or two readers, male and female oftentimes. We need to bring in those readers that know how to be a good reader. The best practices of an actor acting as a reader. On occasion, and this is a very rare occasion, but on occasion we've had to let go of readers during the audition process because of a couple of reasons. One reason is the reader might think of this as a really awesome opportunity to get some face time with a producer or director or casting director. Being a reader is providing a service to the actor that is auditioning. And so it's really vital that that reader know how to behave in a room. The good news is that you are there and you can literally hear the discussion between the producer, director, and casting director when the actor has left the room. And that is an amazing way for you to be a little bit of a fly on the wall and listen to the casting process, listening to the conversation that takes place about the role, about the play, about the actor that's just auditioned. This is not, and I repeat, this is not an opportunity for you to participate in the casting process. This is not an opportunity for you to try to take focus and maybe get your own personal attention from the director, producer, or casting director. I hope that makes sense, that simply sticking to the job of being an effective reader is all you need to do. Now, part of being an effective reader means that you are not acting with the actor in the scene when you're a reader. Now, let me explain. Really, it's a mental set that you're serving up as a reader to the actor and being very, very generous with how you treat that actor in the character that you're playing. In other words, it's not a matter of you trying to be in the scene with the character. As the reader, your obligation is to literally serve up the work, so that the actor can do the appropriate audition. Sometimes I see the readers working so hard to be in the scene that it really kind of steals focus in a way that is really unhelpful for the producer, director, and casting director. So there is an adjustment that the reader needs to make, and the reader needs to not feel as if they're acting in the scene, but they are literally there to serve up as a supporting role for the actor that's auditioning. I hope that makes sense. It's a little bit of an adjustment that some readers have difficulty doing. The other thing that readers sometimes have difficulty doing, and that is finding that delicate balance between acting with the reader and pulling back enough in order for the actor to deliver a good audition, and the readers just sort of showing their usefulness by participating partly in the scene, but more importantly, giving and directing all of the focus and energy to the actor that is auditioning. And there are also just a couple of rules. One is that the actor is never to touch the reader. They're not to go in and kiss you. They're not to go in and touch you. It's really inappropriate. Having said that, sometimes an actor will say, do you mind if I touch you on the shoulder, or do you mind if I hold your hand? As long as that's cleared and okay for both the reader and the actor prior to the audition, that might be okay. I have a story with a pretty well-known actor, and I was being a reader, and there was a kiss in the scene, and I'm reading both the male and female parts as the reader, which is always kind of a little bit odd, perhaps, but the actor was really professional and really great until they started coming in to do a serious romantic kiss. And I have to say that I was really, really grateful that the director stopped it from happening, because A, there was no prior permission given, and B, I just felt a little uncomfortable with this scenario. I hope that makes sense. I'm not a prude, but I also know that it's really valuable to establish and maintain professionalism throughout the audition. So that begs the question, well, what do you do? What if there is a kiss in the scene? Or what if there is a hug in the scene? I've seen a lot of different actors make a lot of different choices. One is kissing your own hand. That may seem really, really odd, but when actors do it and the intention is really clear, it's not a terrible choice at all. In fact, sometimes it works really, really well. Also, I've seen actors when there's a hug involved, sort of towards the end of the scene or wherever in the scene, it doesn't really matter. And that is they hug themselves, that they give themselves the energy of a real hug as if they're doing it to somebody else, but they're just doing it to themselves. If the intention is clear, that is really fine. That's really works well. That's kind of actually a really strong choice, I think. So the reader just has a very few rules. Also, the energy has to be consistent throughout the entire day of auditions. If you're doing an entire day, then just make sure that you're giving each actor as fair amount of consistent energy and delivery as you possibly can. Those are some best practices for readers for you to consider when you're auditioning and for you to consider becoming a reader. I can't think of a better way to get into the casting and audition atmosphere. If you're a little nervous about auditions, consider being a reader. Find out. Make contact with a casting director. Ask through agents. Find out by writing to the producer or the director that you would love to be considered for a reader, and provide your picture and resume and explain exactly what you'd like to get out of that experience. And using what I just gave you is going to be a great start. And I promise you an unbelievably exciting and wonderful experience. So that's it for Reading the Reader, episode number 33. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I certainly had fun doing it. Please, I beg you to send me an email. It's easy to go to castingactorscast.com, and you can leave a voice message if you like. It's really easy. You just click on the leave a voice message box, or you can leave a comment. If you have any questions at all, we're going to be doing some questions and answer on a future podcast pretty soon now. So I'd like to get some really great, interesting questions that I can help you with. So thank you so much for listening. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach, and don't forget that this is Casting Actors Cast.
You've been listening to Casting Actors Cast with host Jeffrey Dreisbach. Find out more at castingactorscast.com and let us know if you would like us to cover topics you're interested in. Thanks for listening. I'm Matthew DeSarno.